Half a day, the Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriation now called to order. Today is Friday, February 9th, 2024. The time now is 9:02. In compliance with open government law, the notice for this public hearing were posted on GovGuam Public Notice Portal, KGTF, PBS, Channel 12, and disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Monday, January 29th, and again on Wednesday, February 7th. The agenda today. The following items will be heard for this morning's public hearing. They're pretty much all related to the Guam Election Commission. They're bills 214-37, COR, introduced by Senator Roy A.B. Canata, and co-sponsored by myself, Senator Augustin, an act to amend Section 11115, Chapter 11, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated relative to tabulated and published write-in votes. And Bill 215-37, COR, introduced by Senator Roy Canata, also, and co-sponsored by myself, Senator Augustin, an act to amend Section 1903E to Chapter 19, Title 1, Guam Code Annotated Act, and to amend Section 30101, Chapter 30, Title 5, Guam Code Annotated relative to the election and qualification processes for the office of the Public Auditor and Attorney General in Guam. Bill 216-37, COR, introduced also by Senator Roy A.B. Canata and co-sponsored by myself, Senator Augustin, an act to amend Section 9112 of Chapter 9, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the enforcement of electioneering at polling places. Bill 217-37 COR, introduced by Senator Roy A.B. Canata and also co-sponsored by myself, Senator Augustin, an act to amend Section 14105 of Chapter 14, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated, relative to provisional ballots. Bill 218-37 COR, introduced by Senator Roy A.B. Canata and co-sponsored by myself, Senator Augustin, an act to amend Section 3104, 3105, 3110, and add a new Section 3102(1)G, Chapter 3, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated, and to add a new Section 3101.3G, Chapter 3, Title 16, Guam Code Annotated, relative to extending the term of appointment of a registration clerk and the times of registration. And Bill 219-37 COR, introduced by Senator Roy A.B. Canata and co-sponsored by myself, Senator Augustin, an act to amend Section 1117 and to add a new Section 1123, Chapter 1, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated, relative to changing a precinct to a district and define the name of a candidate or nominee. And finally, Bill 233-37 LS, introduced by Senator Roy A.B. Canata, an act to amend Section 17116 and repeal Section 17118, Chapter 17, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated, relative to changing preliminary reports to quarterly reports and eliminating final and supplementary reports. That being said, and we have a total of, let me just count it out loud so that we have no problem with the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bills, all related to the Guam Election Commission. We're going to combine all of them as one. We hear from the OPA, former Speaker B.J. Cruz, and he'll comment on the bill that relates to his area, which is 215-37, and then we'll hear from the Guam Election Commission, but we're going to combine them all as one because they're all related and we don't need to keep introducing each bill every 10 minutes. That being said, the physical note request was requested and physical note waiver was received and disseminated to all senators via email by Committee on Rules on December 27th. Those participating on all the bills are present. We have the OPA, the Public Auditor, former Speaker B.J. Cruz, and we have Tom Augustin from the Guam Election Commission. General rules for this public hearing. Please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopying and distribution. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for questions or additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the public hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted and will be escorted from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. I'd like to acknowledge that the author of the bills are here, Senator Roy A.B. Canata. And with that, Senator Canata, if you can make your opening statement and cover all the bills so we can wrap this up one time. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to read public testimony on these bills. These legislative proposals that have been developed after comprehensive review of various election reform requests put forth by the Guam Election Commission. As a part of the regular reporting, the Commission provides the legislature with an election comparative analysis report during the non-election years. The latest report, published in 2023, has proven to be a valuable source of information regarding Guam electoral processes. In light of this, I am presenting the following bills which aim to address specific aspects of the electoral system that require amendments to enhance transparency and effectiveness. Bill 214-37, the amendment sought for the Bill 214-37 would require write-in votes to be tabulated and published if it has significant impact on the election results. Bill 214-37 states that if write-in votes oval space is marked and a name is written alongside it, the write-in votes will be counted for the corresponding office. If the total number of write-in votes could affect the results of the office, the names next to the marked in write-in space will be tabulated and published. Otherwise, only total number of marked write-in spaces will be counted. 2. Bill number 215-37 aims to amend the election and qualifications process that impacts the races of the Office of Public Auditor and the Attorney General of Guam, as recommended by Guam Election Commission. This Bill 215-37 reduces the government of Guam's expenses by ensuring that all certified candidates have their name listed on the ballot of the general election. The candidates with the highest number of votes, as certified by the Guam Election Commission, will be declared the winner of the election. 3. Bill 216-37 aims to maintain the integrity of the electoral process and guaranteeing a neutral space for voters to ensure that a fair and unbiased voting environment of 100 feet of non-electioneering zone is established around the entrances and the exiting of polling sites. The Guam Election Commission will be responsible for clearing and marking these boundaries, and if needed, the Guam Police Department will assist with the enforcement. Bill number 217-37 brings forth the amendment or subsection 14105 of Chapter 14, aiming to provide clarity on the timeline for curing and counting provisional ballots. The proposed change provides that all provisional ballots should be addressed and accounted for prior to the certification of the election, and opposed by the current deadline of 10 days by the election. By implementing this measure, the Guam Election Commission will have ample time to go thoroughly and review and resolve all provisional ballots cast during this election. Number 5, Bill 218-37 Core is a straightforward legislative proposal that aims at enhancing the efficiency of the Guam Election Commission and generated voter rolls ahead of the election. The bill encompasses several amendments, including the establishment of the 21-day window prior to the election during the electors may register. Additionally, the bill seeks to empower electors by enabling them to register for an election electronically. These amendments are intended to streamline the registration process and ensure a more accessible and convenient experience for voters. 6. Bill number 219-37 redefines a precinct to a district and adds a standardized definition of the name of a candidate and nominee through the Guam Election Code. Bill number 233-37 enhances the accountability of campaign funds of candidates by requiring candidates to submit quarterly reports rather than just the current standard preliminary and final reports. Thank you again, Mr. Chair, and I look forward to your discussion on these bills. Thank you to OPA and GEC for attending as well.
Thank you, Senator Canata. That being, I know that the OPA is here to testify, but his second bill. We're going to let the Guam Election Commission just go ahead and read their statement, because you would cover everything, and I don't see any objection to any of the bills. I think the auditor would be glad to speak in support of the bill, and we can move on in this. Mr. Tom, just go down the list on all of them, and then we'll, because yours is short, and his will be shorter. Oh, you have a time constraint? Oh, then we'll let the auditor go first. Thank Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Hafa Senator Chairman Agustin and committee members, thank you for the invitation to provide testimony on 7 election-related bills that seek to reform various election policies and practices. As I read the measures that are being proffered by my oversight chair, Senator Roy Canata, and yourself, Chairman Agustin, the one bill that is somewhat related to the Office of Public Accountability, but more specifically to the position I currently hold as Public Auditor, is Bill 215-37. This bill seeks to adjust the filing deadline for candidacy and proposes to eliminate the primary for the elected Public Auditor and the Attorney General. From my understanding, this bill was introduced as a cost-saving initiative and reinforces the notion that our elected Public Auditor and Attorney General is elected by plurality vote rather than the majority, or 50% plus 1. A couple of days ago, I had the opportunity to be the guest speaker at the Rotary Club in Northern Guam and made it no secret that I am interested in running for this position again in the next election cycle. Being that I am a potential candidate and the incumbent, it is improper for me to say I support or oppose the bill, as it might give the impression that whatever way it comes out would directly affect my benefit my candidacy. As a head of the Office of Public Accountability, the bill does not directly affect the operation of the office, so I have respectfully declined expressing an opinion on the bill.
Thank you, Auditor Speaker Cruz. Mr. Tom, I know before you start, I'd like to recognize my colleagues that have also joined us this morning. My Vice Speaker, Senator Tello Tadigui, and Correction Vice Chair, and Senator Joanne Brown.
Okay.
Sir.
Hafide. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hafide, Senators. Sizuros Maasi for the opportunity to provide testimony on bills relative to the electoral process. The Guam Election Commission is here today to discuss the following bills which were submitted as legislative recommendations pursuant to 3 GCA 2103. Bill 214 seeks to change the reporting requirements for write-in votes. Prior to the use of current tabulation machines, the recording of write-in candidates was done after the primary and general elections and required the reopening of ballot boxes, as well as several teams working throughout the normal business days for approximately a week. Today, despite the tabulation equipment having ballot scanning capabilities that allow the GC to capture write-in votes to meet the requirements of 3 GCA 115, the process still requires a manual review of write-in votes. As written, the bill would require the GC to tabulate and publish the names of write-in votes only if the total number of write-in votes counted for an office could change the results as to the person having the largest number of votes for that office. Bill 215 seeks to cancel the primary election for both the offices of the Public Auditor and Attorney General of Guam. Currently, both offices are required to be placed on a separate ballot from the partisan offices in the primary election. If enacted, the GEC would no longer have to procure, print, code, and secure a second ballot for the primary election. Additionally, elimination of the non-partisan ballot for the primary election may bring about quicker election results, reduce the labor costs needed for tabulation. The GEC would also like to note that 3 GCA 6108 references a primary election deadline requirement for both the Public Auditor and Attorney General, and respectfully requests that this section be included in the body's consideration of 215. Bill 216 allows for Guam Police Department intervention should electioneering occur at the polls and provides further collaboration with GPD as the GEC seeks to establish safer electioneering parameters for the polling sites throughout the island. Bill 217, the Commission is currently mandated to tabulate provisional ballots within 10 days after an election. It is also mandated to allow for 10 days after an election to receive absentee ballots. Bill 217 seeks to change the deadline for tabulating provisional ballots, which would allow the GEC to synchronize its timetable for tabulating both absentee and provisionals. Additionally, Bill 217 will require that provisional envelopes be completed and meet the same standards required for voter registration in order to remedy any incomplete or deficient registration applications or to register an individual who is unregistered. Bill 218, the GEC has established multiple avenues of voter registration to include online registration, motor voter, volunteer voter registrars, and district registration, all to promote the ease of access to the electorate. Today, there are currently over 55,900 registered voters, and we are expected to reach 60,000 by the 2024 general election. Bill 218 seeks to change the close of registration from 10 days to 21 days prior to an election, which would consistently apply the close of registration to all avenues. And further, this additional time will help the GEC to ensure and protect the accuracy of the voter registry. Bill 219 seeks to establish clarity and consistency with the election code and standard practices of the Commission by defining district. By defining district as one of the 19 municipalities on the island, as well as defining the word name to mean the name that appears in his or her United States birth certificate, United States passport, certificate of naturalization, court-ordered name change, certificate of marriage, or any identification meeting the Real ID Act. And lastly, Bill 33-37. Currently, the review of campaign finances does not take place until the end of an election cycle due to the mandates leading up to the primary and general election. Bill 233 seeks to change the campaign reporting requirements to quarterly reportings. This will enable the GEC to better advise candidates and committees on proper recording requirements and ensure that campaign finances are reviewed in a timely manner. Cizos Masi, Mr. Chair, I'm here to address any questions the panel may have.
Thank you. Senator Roy, no questions. Senator Titleby, do you have any questions for the two gentlemen on the panel?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I apologize for being a little late. I was listening on the way over here and understand what you're doing on the process, combining all the bills. It makes sense, but we're going to have to go through each one of them for me, if you don't mind. First, with Bill 214, you know, when I read this and read it 3 times to try and understand the language on this, like what Tom, can you explain, like if someone writes in, you know, have a write-in, there's an oval next to a blank line, you know, to write the person's name in, Donald Duck or whoever, and then they don't color in the oval part, right? But they just write it in. Is that pertaining to that when you're talking about whether you count that, even though the oval is not hit or marked out, blacked out? And so, you know, the language in here, I was wondering also, who wrote the language for that particular bill? Because it's kind of confusing.
First, the language was provided from the GEC and submitted as a legislative recommendation, which is we're required to do to submit for the comparative analysis. But to answer your question, Senator, what the bill is addressing is the Commission's duty to tabulate and
speak closer. I'm sorry,
yes.
Tom. Can you speak a little bit closer? Bring the mic up to you a little bit more. Okay, that's good. And kind of give me an example.
Yeah.
You know. Okay.
What the bill addresses is to tabulate and post the write-in results. So prior to our current machines, after the primary and general election, the GEC would have to come together again and reopen the ballot boxes to examine all the write-in candidates and record their names, and then publish it to the, and I'm sorry. So,
on the website.
To publish the names of all the write-ins, even though the write-in results would not affect the race. So what the bill is seeking is that should the write-in results not affect the race, the GEC is requesting just to tabulate and publish the results of the write-in. And should the race be affected, then we will proceed to go ahead and open it up and tabulate and count.
Okay, I'm still not understanding, Tom. Because currently, right now, when I look at the end of the results of the election, you can go online, which I appreciate what Guam Election does, because there's a whole tabulation, computerized, and it even has the write-ins on it, and it has the names of those being written in,
Yes.
And how many votes that individual received. And it never, has it ever affected,
Yes.
The race at all. But it's still published.
Yes.
So I really don't see the difference here that what you don't already do.
Well, what I guess, Senator, to address, what the bill would say is if the write-in votes would not affect the race, then the only thing that would be published is just the results of the write-in and no longer the names.
Okay, it's as simple as that. That's how the writing on this bill should say, but it doesn't. If anybody reads this, it's quite confusing. I don't know if the author of the legislation or someone can simplify this, so that people understand. It's one thing to write language in a bill that's, with legal, verbiage that, but the layman to understand this, it's important. This is an election, not for attorneys or judges or people who have that, background and understanding, but it's for the layman who understands what is actually going on with the election, because it's a democratic process where everybody's involved. So to simplify it, but I think we should just need to look at what that language is. But in the meantime, currently, if this bill does not pass, then you're required to write, regardless if it affects it or not, to publish the name of the write-in and the number that they received, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And what you're trying to do is stop that from happening.
That is correct.
I don't see why. I think transparency is really important, and I think we should put it down regardless, to see what the people of Guam are thinking about, regardless if it's Donald Duck or not, or Minnie Mouse, the names that they put down there. It just should all be put down, every aspect. So the other one I have a question was about, I have no problem with 215. I know the public auditor's testimony, couldn't chime in on it, but I think this would save us money, right? Is that the purpose of this?
Yes, that is correct, Senator.
Okay, and how much money are we going to save by not having a primary?
So approximately, Senator, with the cost for the ballot to procure it printed would probably roughly around a little over $12,000, but what the real cost savings will be actually the labor hours needed to handle the
Counting, yeah.
to handle the public auditor and attorney general ballot. Because it is a separate ballot, it's pretty much the same amount of the partisan ballots.
Yeah, so we were saving, well, what you're telling us right now, it's about $12,000 savings, and then a plus manpower, which is paid for too at the same time. So I'd like to, it's good to have that calculation too on how much the manpower would cost on that.
Yeah.
So if you can combine that and let the chairman know how much that would also give us a savings to do, because
yes, we can provide an approximate amount. But
excellent.
that too also, like it goes with the during tabulation night. That's one of the reasons to why in the primary election it can go on all the way through the evening, is because we're also counting 2 ballots.
Right. Yeah. Understand.
So
and
it's down to one will.
It's not a party affiliated, so I don't think there's the reason to have this. So I do support that. 216 though, I always thought. You always get assistance from GPD to assist you during these. I don't understand why now you have to put it in writing. Does this give you actually the authority to call on GPD to provide assistance when it comes to the parameters of the line in which that's set up?
Yes, Senator. So we always collaborate with GPD regarding the safety of the polling sites. So what the bill is actually doing is just providing more clarity and strengthening that collaboration with GPD and Guam Election, that when it comes to the safety of our voters, that GPD will be the one, because they are currently the ones who handle the public safety at the polling places.
This doesn't mandate them to do so. I mean, you've done it in the past. Have they been, resistant in assisting you during election time? Is that why you want it in writing? But then again, it doesn't say shall in here either. It just says like you're giving them the authority. They already have that authority.
Well, yeah, again, Senator, it's just really to provide clarity within the code. But yes, GPD throughout the elections has always continued to support us, and especially in ensuring that traffic ways are clear, and then that our supporters out there, the supporters out there, are safe as the cars pass through.
Okay. Well, I don't see anything in here mandating them to do it, at the request of Guam Election Commission. There is a shall section.
Senator Tideway, on the bill, it's the Guam Police Department shall promptly assist in the enforcement of this
Okay,
section.
there's the shall.
So there's the mandate, because I know for a fact on most election sites, GPD shows up, but there has no mandate. This would make them a mandate. They will participate with the election mission.
Now we're going to have to hear from GPD. They weren't required to do this before. They did it where they, have those who can assist at the time. And if that means on election day, they're going to have to pull people who are off, officers who are not working that, pull them on duty, there's going to be a cost to that. I'd like to know what that cost is. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to request that GPD, if we can get a hold of GPD and ask them to come forward with a money amount and how much it's going to cost them. Maybe that $12,000 in savings from the OPA is going to go to, GPD assistance, so we're not really saving, but I'd like to see that cost.
Roughly, Senator, the cost for security in the election, it ranges around $40,000. Now, just for this to handle the securing of the electioneering, I don't have the breakdown of that, but just to the cost for election security for the election day is roughly around $40,000.
Who do you pay that $40,000 to? GPD?
GPD.
Okay, so you're paying them $40,000, right? Currently, yeah. Well, I'd like to hear from GPD since this word "shall" is in there. It makes a big difference, I'd like to hear their comments from there. The other one on the 10 days on 217-37, 10 days tabulation after election is mandated to allow 10 days after the election to receive absentee ballots. Currently, what is it, 21, right?
No, it's 10 days.
Okay,
217, right?
so 217.
Yes. So what that mandate is, currently, the law requires the GEC to tabulate provisional ballots within 10 days. However, we do have another law that does require the GEC to wait for absentee ballots, and the last day being 10 days after the election. So what this law pretty much is just synchronizing our timelines and ensuring that the absentee ballots and provisional ballots will be tabulated at the same time.
Okay, it says prior to the certification of any election, the Commission shall count the provisional ballot choice after every race. I don't see any. I'd like to hear from my other colleagues on that one. Now this one here, you're extending it from 10 days to 21. That's the one that actually I was wondering about. Is this going to make it longer for you to certify? Is this the one where you certify is this going to make it a little bit longer to certify the results?
Bill 217, Senator?
218.
Oh, 218.
I'm sorry, I'm 218.
217 or 218, I'm sorry.
218.
Oh, 218 is actually addresses the registration, the close of registration.
Oh, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this one means that, I know you guys are trying very hard to entice people to vote, right? I mean, because the low voter turnout was really bad in the last 2 elections. And I know the Guam Election Commission is trying to do some outreach programs and education programs to try and get people to vote, exercise their right to vote. But by closing it earlier, then, or not being able to have it later, closing it earlier, 21 days, than 10 days prior to the election, don't you see that you're going to lose out on people who have that last-minute mentality, or trying to rush to get registered? Do you see that missing out?
Well, Senator, so yes, there will always be, I guess, a line or a rush to register on the last day, but the GEC has created multiple avenues and a lot of ease to have our voters register. And then in the past election, we have seen now, like when we have our district registration, which is actually the close, the last couple of days prior to the close of registration, the mayor's offices are not as crowded as they were back during that time. So we will call and contact, and in some days, during those last few days, there's nobody entering in the mayor's offices. But we believe one of the reasons why is because we are reaching out to a lot of the voters through the motor voter program, through our online registration, through our district registrars, and of course through the already established district registrars that are inside the mayor's offices as well.
Thank you for answering that, Tom, because that first part, wondering what is happening, like with the current law right now, if you're seeing people rushing in on that last 10 days,
Yes.
Going in there, and you're saying they're not. However, we've done everything possible in the Guam Election Commission, from doing early voting, from, I think Senator Marsh is the one that put out that bill that allowed for early voting, and people were taking advantage of that, And I just want to make sure that it's you guys are still on that track of, encouraging people to come vote and giving them every opportunity. I mean, even if you're in their face saying, here, register to vote, exercise your right scenario. And here, what are we doing? Doing this for the comfort of Guam Election Commission instead of, allowing that extra days for people to come and register, and it seems like, you're just cutting them off. So I'm kind of concerned about that.
Well, actually, Senator, we have increased the registry. So back about maybe a couple elections ago, the total registered voter for the general election would have been at 55,000. So currently today we are already at 55,000 before the primary, and we do anticipate reaching around 60,000 by the general election. And then in regards to going out outreach, yes, just recently we did have an outreach, Help America Vote Day, and we had it at the university. We went around again, passing out our QR codes, showing them, letting the students know the ease of registering to vote with simply just a driver's license or a Guam ID, and also reminding them that there is an election coming up this year. And then we anticipate to still continue on those campaigns throughout the season to try and encourage our voters to come out.
Okay, and we will definitely see in this election, because the last two elections it's very unfortunate. We didn't get a good turnout. And I don't want to see that happen. The other question I have in 219-37. Tom, when we come in to file for our candidacy and fill out that green card, to put our name that will be on the ballot, they always allow us to put some kind of slogan on the side. Like, mine was "Tell it to Tello," right?
Yes.
So it's Tello Taidegui, Tell it to Tello. Are you still going to allow that, even though this is required to now go on the birth certificate of an individual?
No, Senator, that will still remain intact. What this bill does is it sets the standard. I mean, it provides consistency and clarity, especially when in regards to some of the standards that the Commission have already upheld. So one of those is the word name. So the Commission standard when it comes to name, especially on voter registration, petitions, and candidacy information, we would like for them to use their legal name. Or actually, we require them to use their legal name. But in regards to the nickname, that still will be intact. What will be shown is the candidate's legal name on the top, and then, of course, their better-known name by right below it.
Okay, so malfunction can still be there, right?
Yes,
that
will still be intact. Yeah. Yeah.
Madera, like Pampuru, or, you know, all our family last names and stuff. Oh, then on the petitions that we were required, you know, to fill out, like for the senators, I think it's 250, if I'm not mistaken, 250.
Yes.
Can you also put, like, you know, your, you know, name, your legal name that's like on your ID, and then put, you know, tell beside it? Is that still okay?
Yes,
Okay.
that is fine as long as your legal name does appear.
Okay, somewhere on the
the
petition
petitions.
as well as the ballot. Okay, that's good to know. I didn't want that to go away. Oh, I did have one question. Oh, no, it has to be your full name then, correct? Because you
Yeah.
can't just put your first name and not even put your last name. You got to put your full
Yes,
name, right?
that is
Okay.
correct.
Yeah. The other one is, okay, kind of explain to me this last one, 233-37, quarterly reports.
Yes.
Okay, it's always confusing for those who are treasurers or even candidates who prefer to be their own treasurer, which is allowable. What just walk us through when you're explaining how to do these reports. I mean, it even talks about if you keep your account open even after an election. Some, you know, elected officials who get in, they keep it open. And they wait until the next term and, you know, don't have to open a new one. But what is the process on that from the very beginning?
Okay, so Senator, what the bill actually seeks, it leaves everything else, the requirement of the reportings intact. The only thing that it does change is just when to file the reports with the commission. But all requirements relative to expenses and contributions received, they will remain the same. So due to the mandates for the primary and general elections and how compressed the timeline may be, the GEC is unable to review the campaign finance reports until after the primary and general elections. So what this does is it actually spreads out those deadlines throughout the timeline so that we can not only review the finance reports in a timely manner, but we can also, advise candidates and committees on how to properly report their contributions and expenditures.
You said quarterly, and you give the dates, right?
Yes,
on the
that's
quarterly dates, that when the election commission will be, you know, because usually quarterly we start October, November, December, December, that's one quarter, then January, February, etc. But this one actually starts your quarterly reports on, I believe it's April. Yeah, you start on April. April 15th, July 15th, October 15th, January 15th. It's a little bit different from our regular fiscal, you know, quarterly reports.
Okay.
It's, yeah, a little bit different. These are actually specific dates in which the Election Commission are required the candidates to file their reports.
So yeah, actually, Senator, they just clarified me. It's actually 15 days. It is a quarterly report, but the reports are due 15 days after the quarter has ended. So that's why it's around April 15th, July, October, and I believe January 15th. So the reports are actually due 15 days after the quarter has ended.
That it's due.
Yes, that is correct. And then those will be the due dates to the commission.
Technically, it's April 1st, and then you have that up to April 15th, is basically what you're saying.
So the reporting will be up to April 1st, but then your due date to submit the reports to the GEC.
You're given 15-day leeway. It doesn't say that here. You know, it just says April 15th. So if you're requesting it for April 1st on a quarter, every quarter, then it should say April 1st, and then up to no later than the 15th.
Okay.
That's what it should say. And first complete a quarter following the filing of candidates or committee's organizational report. Okay. So that's all I have, actually. I was looking at this, and just the confusion on the first one, 214, was so confusing. I think there's a simplified way we can make it so that those with, not a legal background can understand it, because they're the ones that are going to, read the law to find out what you can and cannot do if you want to run for election. And this is for people to understand, and what they can and cannot do. Again, so I thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity. And gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to see you. Mr. OPA, congratulations on your, your announcement of running. So we definitely need you, and thank you for your hard work. And especially, most especially, please thank your staff. They're amazing. They are really, truly amazing over there with the lack of resources that you have. So, and Tom, Seth, thank you for also your long journey at Guam Election Commission. You have a lot of institutional knowledge, and I'm sure you pass that down to the next generation, okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Senator.
Thank you, Senator. And just for a little clarification, when they talked about 218, in the beginning of the bill, it refers to changing from 10 days to 21 days. So I think that should have been clarified up front, because when Senator Tyree asked that, we're shortening it? No, we extended it to 21. We added 11 more days.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Senator Brown, do you have any question for the gentlemen on the panel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I mean, even though some are very short and easy to understand, I agree with Senator Tyree. I think we need to rewrite the language on 214, because even I need clarification in trying to read the Finno-English that's here. What are you looking at exactly here? Are you looking at simply publishing the names of the write-ins that are written, or if they're not at a certain amount, not writing them at all and just indicating that there were X amount of write-ins? What exactly are you looking at doing here?
Yes, Senator. So if the write-ins would not affect the race, then yes, what the commission is seeking is just to publish the total number of write-ins for that race.
Would that include the names of who is written in?
As this bill is written, it would not include the names.
It would simply include the number. You had a
Just the
write-in of
number.
20 people or
Yeah.
whatever, 20 people who did write-ins.
Unless, of course, if the write-in votes could determine that the race will be affected, meaning one of the write-ins may have a higher vote in the office, then the commission will proceed to go ahead.
Have you ever had a situation where the write-in affected an election at all?
During my tenure, Senator,
No, not
I have
at all,
not.
right?
Yeah.
It'd be very, very limited. I see. And then I know Senator Tyree had asked, and I didn't quite hear your response. You may have responded, but what if someone simply wrote the name and didn't color the oval?
Oh, okay.
Just to get that clarified.
For clarification, that vote will actually not be counted, because the way the law currently reads is that the voter must fill in the oval and then write in the candidate's name. So if the oval is not filled in, that will not be recorded.
But I would think, most people, I would think myself, if I were to write in a candidate, I would, the extra effort of having to write Joe San Agustin, for example, if I were to write his name down, I would assume that would be taken, because I put the effort of writing his name down, versus existing candidates that have already, the name's already there, and I'm simply marking the oval. So I don't know, maybe we should change that when you think about it, because if I as a voter made the effort and specifically wrote the name, and then what if I have a letter wrong in the way I wrote the name? But I think everyone would look at it and say, this is Joe San Agustin's name. What would you do in that case if it wasn't perfectly spelled out, and if they have to write the name?
Well, that, Senator, you're talking about if there's any misspelling on a write-in name.
I'm just throwing that out as another example, because those circumstances I'm sure happen, right?
So those kind of things, that will be addressed by the board so what we will do as the commission, we will bring all those names and then the variations of those names, and we'll present it to the commission if there is a race that comes close, and we'll say, okay, we do have some names that have similarities, and then we'll leave it to the commission to determine whether or not they mean the same name or they are separate individuals.
Well, I just bring it up because I probably, more than anyone, I think I'm the only one in the current legislature that actually had a recount on an election when Senator Ben Pangilinan and I had a very close race. Gosh, I don't know how many, 18 years ago? You had one too? Which one? Oh, when you first won, okay. Did you win?
I won by 22 votes.
Oh, wow, okay. Mine was even more narrow. I beat Ben only by 3 votes, ultimately. I think the electronic counting was 4, and by the time we counted 36,000, hand-counted 36,000 ballots, I only beat him by 3 votes. And I recall, I mean, we were down to, people counting, holding up to see if they could see a pencil mark. So I understand your point in wanting to facilitate with regards to the handwritten votes, and maybe that's something we have to debate on the floor. But definitely, I think this particular bill, the language needs to be written to simplify so that it is more understandable. Now, the other thing I've never understood with the Guam Election Commission and this other bill concerning the reporting requirements, because it seems like once we do the election, we have a report before the election, we do a report after the election, and then not too long after that, we have to do another report. And in most cases, unless you're fundraising every day or every week, there's really not much change for most candidates. Certainly if they're running for re-election, as you get closer to the election, that's when you see more activity. So if nothing has changed from the previous report, we still have to file the same report and every quarter and say it's, it's the exact same amount as it was last report, because it seems to me a lot of reporting. A lot of hassle to reporting on, maybe if there's almost no change at all with regards to the amounts.
Yes, that's correct, Senator. So if there is still no change and it is a new reporting requirement, you would still have to file that report or that same report. But what do you call it? It is not actually additional reports. What the commission simply did was we took the same number of reports that you are currently required to file, and we made them quarterly so that we can review them in a timely manner. Yeah. So you will still be filing, unless of course, you have a surplus or a deficit.
Right.
You will still be filing the same number of reports required today.
Because of course, until if we haven't yet filed, if we were going to run for election yet, like my existing campaign account will have what was left from the last election. So we just file that until we decide to run again or close out the account or whatever the case may be?
I'm sorry, Senator, I couldn't catch that. Can you repeat that one more time?
I'm just saying, for example, if we've not yet decided whether you're going to run again, you have remaining funds in your account. I mean, you continue to file until that's closed, assuming you're not running again. If you are running again, I assume you transfer that to your new report running as a candidate.
Yes, that is correct, Senator.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I just bring it up because it seems like we just got out of an election, and then even after you completed your final report on the election, you have to file again within such a short time, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially after the election. It's almost, I doubt there's a lot of activity unless somebody's really stuffing their cash bag, money donations even several months or within the first year. I have no change, for example, in the amount in my account since the end of last election, because I would have had no activity that would have changed that last year, for example. I'm just bringing it up because it's a lot of paperwork, and I understand the intent of wanting to know, and certainly I agree. We should all know. You'll have no problem reading mine. I don't have a lot of donors, so it's easy to see who donated to my campaign. It's just a laborious process, and I don't know what's gained by it within such a short time of every quarter versus every 6 months. But again, that's something we can debate on the floor and we can adjust. I do hope, Mr. Chair, that we entertain these bills, not in this session next week, but if they were prepared for our session next month, because I really don't like, as we get closer to the election, really dealing with any bills related to the election in any way, shape, or form, because, people will look at that and, they're going to be wondering if we're trying to manipulate the process to our benefit, especially those of us that are incumbents. So just be mindful to move them, even though they're almost innocuous in many cases. I think we should address that sooner than later. Just not next week. Don't add it onto the session as a potential. Yeah, next month would be fine if the committee report could be put together and expedited and so that we can dispense with anything related to the election. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And thank you, Senator Barnett, for joining us. Do you have any questions for the panel? Did you want to ask? Sure. Feel free. The auditor was here earlier. He just has to attend another audit. So we told him to please go and complete the audit so we can get that report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Tom.
Buenas, Senator.
I just promised Ms. Maria I'd come in here and give you a hard time this morning because she's watching from where she's at. I just wanted to ask on the write-in, the bill about the write-in. So are you trying to not count the write-in votes at all? Just if you could just explain what it is you're...
Okay. No, sir. So the write-in votes will be tabulated. They will continue to be tabulated.
Okay, and that's
right?
if this
Yes.
bill passes.
So should this bill pass, the publishing of the names of the write-ins will not be done unless it is not determined whether or not the write-in votes or the candidates in the write-in category may be the highest vote getter. So that's what this bill is seeking to do is should the write-in votes not affect the race, then the commission wishes to just publish the total number of write-in votes received for that race.
And how is it done now?
Currently, we tabulate the write-in votes, and then we also publish the names of the write-in candidates as well.
And do you publish the number of write-in votes the candidates received?
Not at the moment. We just publish the names of what the voters written down. Yeah.
And so if this bill were to become law, let's say, for example, you have a gubernatorial race where Team A received, 13,000 votes, and the Team B received, 12,000 votes, but there are only 20 write-ins. So then what would that scenario be if this bill were to become law?
If this bill were to pass, then what you will see on the reporting is just whatever the two candidates had on the top, the two gubernatorial teams, and then write-in votes will be in the bottom 20. Yeah.
What is the slogan of the Guam Election Commission?
Your vote is your voice.
Okay, there's also one, Bota de Huma Cuenta,
Yes,
right?
Bota de Huma Cuenta.
Right. So do you think that this desire of you guys to, I'm kind of old school. I enjoy reading the write-in votes and the totals just because as someone coming from the media and now a candidate, I like to see, who the people are trying to put in there. So that's just the only comment I had on that. I mean, I understand it's a lot of work for you guys. Mm-hmm. And then on the other question I had was on the name one.
Yes.
And that is Bill number 219-37. Right. So in your opinion, Mr. Tom, would this disallow the ability for the candidates to list the nickname that's under the real ID name or whatever?
No, Senator. So it was just asked earlier. But
okay, sorry.
This will not affect the nickname. This will only address like what your name is on the ballot, which we are already implementing.
Right, and so that's
use your legal name. Yes.
That's a commission policy, and
Yes,
now we're
that
just
is,
seeking
yeah.
to codify it, right? Yeah, and that's how everyone found out my name was Daryl. Okay. All
Yes.
right.
So it is a current standard that the commission is following. So what we're doing is just writing it into the code.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tom. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Caneta, if you want to, any closing?
No closing, Senator. I just wanted to thank you and the body for being present today, and certainly to the OPA and Guam Election Commission for being present to answer any questions like my colleagues had this morning. Again, appreciative of your time.
Thank you. There being no one else to present testimony on all 7 bills, I want to thank everyone for attending this hearing and providing feedback and suggestion. Bill 214, let me read every bill. Bill 214, 215, Bill 216, 217, 218, 219, 233 has been duly heard, and this public hearing is now adjourned. Si Dios mercy, and please have a nice day. Thank you.